And now, you're tuned in to All Factors Considered. Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of All Factors Considered, episode number 61. We got Ciryl Gane facing off against Drago Alexander Volkov. We got a banger in store in the heavyweight division. We got a couple heavyweight bouts to cover, but we got 6 total bouts on this week's main card before we face a little bit of a hiatus because we're not going to have another big event in the UFC until July 10th. That is the Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor number 3, the trilogy. But with that being said, I'm going to bring in my co-host, AJ. AJ, what is going on, brother? Back again, live in action, ready to go, my man. Let me just ask you right off of the bat. Ciryl Gane versus Alexander Volkov. Are there bigger implications? Have there been any bigger implications in recent history in the heavyweight division outside of the title picture?
Man, this one's one of those ones that can easily skyrocket the winner to even jumping in front of John Jones. You know, the hype's been on him a bunch, but we've seen a little bit of inactivity, so I could see this one skyrocketing him, either the winner up to the top, man. What do you think?
I absolutely agree, man. Whoever is going to, well, here's the thing. One thing that sucks is that someone has to lose this fight, and whoever loses is probably going to get placed in the back of the queue, but whoever wins, they are absolutely skyrocketing. It's going to be a really fun one, man, so we have a lot to break down. But before we do any of that, folks, drop a like, subscribe, you know what I'm saying? Rate us on Apple Podcasts. If you want to drop any comments on there, any reviews, let us know how we doing. But what's really the most important is you subscribe on YouTube, hit up our website, and then go and, you know, share the podcast with your family and your friends and all the fight fan people that you know, man. You already know what it is. But AJ, a little bit of record recap: 68 and 48, 55 and 61. Not much has changed. And listen, we're going to see what's going to happen this week, man, because I have a really good feeling that the cards are going to fall in place. The dominoes will align properly, man. But listen, AJ, man, with that being said, let's drop some sleepers, man. Let's do what we do best, man. Let's holla at it.
It's time for some fight night.
If you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
That's right. All right, AJ, man. I'm actually gonna start first if you don't mind me taking the lead on this one. So let me do it, my man. My first sleeper, folks, for UFC Fight Night 191, aka UFC Vegas 30. I got a flyweight contest that I was trying to hype up a couple of weeks back, but we had a catastrophic, a very devastating and ridiculous thing happen that postponed this fight until now. So last March, Julija Stoliarenko. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the name. She's a women flyweight. She got on the scale and she collapsed on the scale. It was a weight cut catastrophe. I think she even tried to get help by her peoples or in her organization, get back up on the scale and fell again or something crazy like that, right? So the fight got called off. That was last March. Fast forward a couple months later to June, and listen, we got it matched up again. So I got the Raging Panda, Julija Avila, facing off against Julija Stoliarenko. And the reason why this is a sleeper, I'm going to do a short, sweet, and concise. Julija Avila is a grinder. She has very, very good stand-up. She's a real pressure fighter, and she brings the fight every single time. She's a real dark horse in the women's bantamweight division. Actually, I apologize. I might have said flyweight. It's a bantamweight bout. Now, Julija Stoliarenko has won 5 of her last 6 fights via armbar. She is a real deal threat. When it gets to the ground, we're going to have a wrestler versus somebody who can snap your arm off, very Ronda Rousey style. It'll be really interesting to see the game plan. It'll be interesting to see the chess match that's going to take place in this matchup overall. But I will say, man, this is a real deal sleeper alert. So, AJ, who you got next for your sleeper?
Next up, Derick, for my first sleeper, I got Charles Rosa versus Justin James. All right, now Charles Rosa, he's been riding a little bit of a roller coaster. He's been hitting them ups and downs, these wins and losses in his last 5, but don't let that fool you. Rosa is the real deal. Great submission game, underrated kicks, learned a hard lesson that the top guy always wins in the eyes of the judges, so I'm predicting him to come out and hunt for a finish. All right, Justin James, he's been on a little bit rougher of a road, and if he doesn't change things soon, he's going to be facing that Dana White chopping block, and, you know, he's really coming out. He's got great hands, great fighter, heavy hands, and a well-rounded game, and this is a sleeper to me, Derick, because both fighters are being left in the dust by the rest of the division, and they need a big performance to come back and make a turnaround. James more so than Rosa, but the point still remains, all right? Desperation makes a beast out of all of us, and I'm expecting fireworks from this one. Who's your second sleeper, Derick?
All right, well, that's definitely going to be a banger, and both of those dudes needs big-time wins because I think I picked both of them in their last fights, and they both lost. So, listen, they got to get one back for your boy. But I got a welterweight contest. I got Shavkat Rakhmonov, man. If you don't know who this man is, I promise you're going to know who he is after this weekend's fight. And he's fighting a real deal UFC veteran in Michel Prazeres. And this is a sleeper because for Rakhmonov, this is a man of Mongolian blood. This is a dude, they need to put him on a horse. And you know what I'm saying? Let the man go to work, 300 style or something crazy like that, right? He's won all 13 of his fights via finish, man. Submission or a knockout. I believe he has 7 knockouts, 6 submissions. Watch your neck when you fighting this dude, man, because his guillotines and his rear naked chokes are the go-to, and they're very, very effective. And he's a former M1 global welterweight champion, man, so this dude's no joke. But Prazeres, he's very, very experienced, man. At 26-3 in UFC, a majority of his career has been in the UFC. He's been a vet since 2013. That's a very impressive record to maintain at the highest of levels. He's a little mini tank. That's basically my assessment of him. He's fought the majority of his career at lightweight, and now he's moving up to 170, but this dude is a little bowling ball of muscle, man. This dude is absolutely no joke. Second degree BJJ black belt, man, so that's always going to be a threat on the ground. And 12 of his 26 wins are via a finish, man. 11 submission wins, so he's a real submission specialist. So it's going to be a real deal, a catapulting type event. Whoever wins this fight, well, for Prazeres, it's going to maintain. And for Rakhmonov, if he can get a win in devastating fashion, he's skyrocketing up the welterweight rankings, man. But yeah, that's what I got. So AJ, give me your next sleeper.
Yeah, Derick, you're right to pick that sleeper, man. That one has some serious potential. But for my second sleeper, I got Warlley Alves versus Jeremiah Wells. All right, Warlley Alves, he comes out throwing heat from the jump. Very strong, very fast, very dangerous. And if Warlley Alves is in control of the fight, don't blink, all right? Now, Jeremiah Wells, he's coming into his UFC debut, but I really don't expect that to stop him from throwing everything but the kitchen sink like he likes to. Wells is fast, stays light on his feet, and throws that heat that we like to see. Now, this is a sleeper to me, Derick, because of these two fighting styles, these two fighters we have going into the ring. If they fight the way they're used to, it's going to be very exciting, and someone's going to go to sleep early. Let's pay attention, man. That's it for me.
Definitely got to pay attention. And AJ, normally we run straight into the main card, but I forgot to do something, and we need to take a step back. We heading back to the intro, folks. So we back here, and we got a poster that we didn't talk about, man. You know I got to keep it in my logs. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger for us here, AJ. So you weren't feeling last event's poster, man. You wasn't very hot on that one. I think you gave it like a 4, and I gave it like an 8 or something. Now we have a little bit of a refreshing poster on our hands right here, if I do say so myself. With that being said, give me your thoughts, man. What do you think about the huey monochromatic vibes, the smoke in the air, the face off? You know, what do you think about that, AJ?
I'm glad you brought this back up, Derick. I thought we were going to skip it, man, but I actually really like this poster, brother. It reminds me of those old school smoker fights, you know, back in the day. It has this old school vibe, the smoke's going around. I love this, man. Nice, big, like the two fighters, and in the middle, man, it looks amazing. Really well compromised or composed. Excuse me. The only thing I wish they would added maybe a color of that smoke. But other than that, I think it's a hell of a picture. And I'm gonna give it an 8, man. I'm gonna give it an 8, ranking it high.
Nice. I believe that's your highest ranking to date so far. I'm going to say, man, I really enjoy this poster as well. I think it's refreshing. I think it's like it's like trying to be creative, man. And sometimes I feel like the UFC, whoever makes the posters, they play it a little safe, right? The same generic formula that works every time. But like I said, this time around, it's a little bit different. I'm not going to lie to you, though. Being someone who does graphic design like myself, right? The smoke is a little corny, man. You know, they could have made it a little bit better, but it reminds me of the smokers, but it also reminds me of like a old Western duel. Like these dudes is like about to just pull out the revolver and you know what I'm saying, like stick them up, you know what I'm saying? Come on. So listen, you give it an 8. I'm not gonna be as generous. I'm gonna give it a 7, but I have these logged down and these are very high on the list regardless. So now that we have that noted, folks, now we can move on to the main card.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts Derick G and AJ.
All right, AJ. So we're going to kick this one off, man, with a lightweight contest. Renato Moicano versus Jay Herbert, man. And I want to ask you off of the bat, this isn't really related. Did you know that Moicano is not his last name? You know it's his nickname?
No.
Yeah.
I've for years, I thought it was Renato Moicano.
No, it's Carneiro, but Moicano is his nickname. So it's just interesting because did you notice in last week's event, folks, clearly, I mean, I guess I'll let the cat out of the bag if you don't know. We didn't record an episode last week. Had a couple technical difficulties, but the Korean Zombie had a very, very big win, right? But when they put his name on the little UFC broadcast, it was Korean Zombie, not Chan Sung Jung, which is not a difficult name to say whatsoever. I just think it's a little bit interesting that the UFC will play the monikers from time to time. You know, even when we had Lupi Godinez, right? Like, that's not her name, it's her nickname, but I know you felt that one. But all right, man, with that being said, let's talk about this one. Renato Moicano versus Jay Herbert. Moicano opened up as a -225 favorite with a plus 190 comeback for Herbert. Herbert is, listen, man, this dude's accomplished. He's a Cage Warriors champion. He was on a 4-fight finish streak prior to his last loss, which was his UFC debut. A very, very tough matchup versus Francisco Trinaldo, who has real deal experience, man. I want to ask you, how are you feeling about Moicano right now? This dude is 2-3 in his last 5, and he's been knocked out 3 times, I believe, in his last 5 fights. So just give me your take. What are you thinking?
I'm not riding as high on him as I thought before, especially when after that Cub Swanson win, he looked real good coming out rear naked choke it out in the first, but then he just started facing some serious killers, Jose Aldo, Chan Sung Jung, we just mentioned the Zombie, and then he got back with the Damir Hadzovic, but that wasn't as impressive of a win. Now he lost dirty to that Fazayev fight, man, and that really kind of put a hitch in his game plan, if you will. I used to love Renato Moicano specifically because he likes to fight long and mean, and he's down to bite down on his mouthpiece and swing for the fences. So if we can see him come out and kind of fight with that spark again, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. How do you feel about him?
Well, listen, I think that right now Moicano is in that territory of, does he trust himself, if that makes sense, right? I feel for a lot of fighters, when you lose, a kind of frequent amount in your last 5, 6, 7 fights or whatever the case may be, especially when it's by knockout every single time, you can start to question your own capabilities and whatnot. And I think that Moicano needs to take a step back from the chasing he had a really good contest against Calvin Kattar, 2018, he had a really, really good contest against Calvin Kattar. Dude put up a record amount of significant strikes, 116. That's the most in his career, right? I feel like he's been chasing that ever since that fight, and it hasn't come out very well for him. So I think he needs to go double down on his strengths with the submissions, man. This dude has a nasty rear naked choke. If he snatches your neck, it's going to be game over. And in a contest like the one that we have in front of us right here, AJ, versus a real striker in Jay Herbert, a dude who's a real finisher, like I just mentioned, I think that's probably his best bet. Now, I do have to put this as a caveat, AJ. Moicano fought at a featherweight, right? All those names we're talking about, those are all featherweight names. He fought from featherweight from 2010 to 2019. He is now 1-1 at 155 pounds, man. So that's going to be the difference, man. Sometimes this could make you or it could break you, right? It could say, okay, I'm not as sucked down, not as sucked dry, but I might not be the biggest dude in the world anymore. Let me ask you, how do you think that this is going to play into this contest? Especially if, let's say, Moicano goes grappling heavy, being a little bit bigger probably, works in his favor, right?
Yeah, actually, I really like him at the 155-pound class. He looks a little thicker, a little bigger, and especially against Jay Herbert, who's the taller, skinnier fighter, I think it's going to play off well for him to get up on the inside, shoot those takedowns, get the ground game going. Like you said, you actually said it perfectly, Derick. I'm hoping that's what Renato Moicano goes out and does, is stick back to the game plan, because he's so comfortable in the ground game that he's down to let the hands swing and throw heavy leather. But I really hope he gets back to that choking out people ways, man. It's more so his style, and it's going to get him right back, at least in the mental aspect, get back to square one, excuse me. But Jay Herbert, man, he's long, he's tall, and he has some sting to him, kind of unexpectedly, because he's so skinny. You don't think this dude can crack, but he can crack you from like 3 feet away. And the biggest thing to me about Jay Herbert is his mental game. They're both kind of fighting that mental loss, because he was beating up Trinaldo pretty good rounds 1 and 2, and then just the old school vet came to play, and that's what happens, man. You get a little delayed, and when I was watching the fight against Trinaldo, Herbert looked like he was almost being too patient. Like he was almost too good in the fight and thinking like, I'm going to be an old school vet, I'm going to stay patient, I'm going to wait for my chance, and then just Trinaldo turned it around on him, and he should have hunted for a KO, maybe a submission, and who knows, maybe that would have also not worked out for him. But either way, he didn't get the win anyway. So you got to push it. What do you think?
Well, I will just add to that, it was his UFC debut, right? So you got the jitters, you got the nerves. It's probably not how you're going to always perform, but you're also facing a dude in Trinaldo, like I said earlier. Dude has so much experience. That's a tough outing in your UFC debut. What's one thing I really like about Jay Herbert, man, which I think could be very dangerous for Moicano in this fight? Herbert has long knees, man. If he gets his hands and clasps them behind your head, that's how he defended his lightweight championship at Cage Warriors, man. He knocked a dude out with a tie clinch knee, man. It was ridiculous. It was nasty. It was disgusting. And one thing I know about Moicano is he's a slow starter, man. So if Herbert can fix those errors of like, I'm not going to pace it out, I'm not going to be too patient, I'm going to attack the opportunity the moment it presents itself, I can see a knockout finish for Herbert, man. Absolutely. Now, the caveat, as always, AJ, so let's look at a couple stats, right? Significant strikes landed per minute. We got 5.4 at a 46% clip from Moicano. And because Herbert only had one fight in the UFC, it's obviously skewed stats, but he's at 30% accuracy, only like one significant strike landed per minute. The key thing here is the takedown defense. He wasn't really able to stuff the takedowns from Trinaldo very well, right? 33% takedown defense overall. Moicano, listen, he shoots very regularly in his fights, and we're already talking about the grappling situation. I think Herbert can hold his own on the ground, but Moicano is a different caliber of grappler. And it's like we can kind of keep going in circles about it. If he really doubles down on it, this fight could prove very dangerous. Outside of like a first round knockout, do you think that Herbert can win this fight on points?
I do actually. If Herbert's actually able to maintain distance and start popping shots from the outside, really using that length advantage, because is it a 77 reach to a 72-inch reach? That's what I got down, somewhere around there. Tapology has it like that. So if Herbert's able to maintain that strike, he has a very quick front kick as well. He uses his jab, and that jab stays long, very long. He'll tap you, like I said, 3 feet away, where you don't even come close. You're thinking you're out of range, and he hits you. If he's able to do that, really point style win, I could see it. I could see it happening, especially if he can actually shut down Moicano's takedown game. Because if that's the case, and Moicano kind of has to be forced to fight stand up, I don't see it going the best route for him.
Yeah, man. I will say Jay Herbert, he reminds me a little bit of a Charles Oliveira. You know what I mean? The way he throws his strikes so crisp, and he doesn't leave himself out of position, right? So it'll be like that jab straight, but it's not that overextending overhand. It's just that bap and bring it back. And if he could, like I said, if he could put those pieces together, it's definitely going to work out well for him. But this is clearly an example of the UFC saying, oh, we're going to pick the dude who's the complete opposite style of you. I just hope Moicano doesn't try to get into a firefight, because he does mix up, man, his left hook and those right calf kicks. You know what I mean? He mixes up the calf kicks and the punches very well, but that left hook, I think that's how the Korean Zombie got him out of there, is that he just knew. He was like, every time I get in here, every time I throw that jab, you're going to try to throw that left hook. I'm going to counter it, put you to sleep. That's exactly what he did. So yeah, let's see if we can get a repeat of the Hadzovic, you know who I'm talking about, Demir. Yeah, if we can get a repeat of that, it'll be good. But this is just one of those situations where you want both guys to win. I want Herbert, his stock to rise, because dude is legit, and Moicano, it's like this dude has been around for a long time. So with that being said, AJ, give me your pick and why.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. I actually think this one can be a coin toss. It really depends for me how Moicano comes out and fights. If he's down to bite on the mouthpiece, it's going to be a very fun, entertaining fight for Herbert. But personally, I think Moicano's going to start shooting for the takedowns, get a ground game going, get the submission, round 1. Who you got?
All right. Well, I think that listen, it's tough because like my heart, or I guess my mind, is saying Herbert should be able to learn from those mistakes and keep his distance and whatnot. But my heart says Moicano. What is the odds of Herbert being able to keep his distance and just stay untouched by Moicano and piece him apart the whole time, versus all it takes is walking in crazy one time, get you to the ground, and keeping you there for the rest of the round, man. And I always go with the grappler, so I'm gonna go Moicano, and I'm gonna go second round rear naked choke, man. I'm gonna go specific, not just a submission. I'm literally going rear naked choke. Moicano has won 3 of his 6 UFC fights by rear naked choke. That is his absolute go-to. So with that being said, man, we can move on to the next one, man. And this is a welterweight contest that came out of left field, man. Tim Means, he had a scheduled bout recently, and I think it fell through, and I don't remember who exactly it was. Do you have that off the top of your head, AJ?
No, I don't.
Yeah, it's okay. But he gets Nicolas Dalby. And I'll tell you, the dude he was supposed to fight before is a complete different stylistic composure than a Nicolas Dalby, who is very much like a Gunnar Nelson karate Wonder Boy style. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, the Dirty Bird, minus 165 favorite with a plus 140 comeback for Nicolas Dalby. And this is another one where it's a very close matchup, I believe personally, because Tim Means, if there's anything we know about him, especially in this advanced stage of his career, is he's looking to walk forward, clinch you up, grapple you up, dirty box, and not let you be out at range and just pick you apart from the outside. I think he has so much experience, he just wouldn't necessarily allow that to happen. But let me just ask you before we really break this down, AJ, how big of a fan are you of Nicolas Dalby, if at all? Because I'm a huge fan of this dude. I think that he's definitely progressed as he's grown in the UFC. He doesn't have that many fights, probably like 6 fights in the UFC or 7 or something like that. But I love that karate style, man. This dude uses his movement so well. It's so beautiful to watch. What do you think?
I don't know if I'm necessarily a fan of Dalby himself, but I am definitely a fan of the way he fights, man. He just in my mind he just needs to get a little bit more recognition, a little bit better names under his belt. But that Daniel Rodriguez fight was absolutely insane, man. I love that, like you said, that karate style, that long, lanky, bounces in and out, strikes, blitzes. He's got an amazing front leg, man. He can kick you out of nowhere and uses it like a jab. One of my first, mixed martial arts ventures was karate. So it's always, it's a home spot for me. Anytime I see a striker that can do it as proficiently as Dalby, man, he's smooth too. Very smooth, very slick, and he can sting, man. So overall, I would say, yes, I am a fan of Dalby, more so a fan of his style than himself and his actual character and persona and all that. But I definitely think he's on the come up, and he can definitely make a name for himself with a seriously big win against the Dirty Bird, man.
Yeah, man, I definitely agree with you, but it's not going to be easy getting a win against Tim Means, especially, like I said, with his style. It's just this clash of styles is very interesting, and I honestly believe that Tim Means has never fought anybody like a Nicolas Dalby. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that he's fought any karate guys. Like, his most notable wins, he got a big win over Saba Hamasi. You know what I mean? He's in Bellator now. He's not in UFC anymore. That was a very, very big win. Interesting style, right? In his last 5, he got a win against Mike Perry, which, let's be honest, that's a plotter. You know, it's a dude who's just going to kind of walk forward like a zombie legitimately. And the film study I went back to kind of see, like, okay, how does he fare against a dude who throws crazy kicks? Watch his fight against Starpoli, right? Luriano Starpoli. And one thing that I did notice is that Tim Means does a really great job at not letting you stay out at kicking range, because you're right, Nicolas Dalby has a great teep kick, man. He uses that thing like a jab. He throws in, it's just really interesting because he's I've never heard of this, AJ, and I didn't really do too much to research it, but I wrote it down. He is a Ashihari Karate Green Belt. You ever heard of anything like that? I like it, though. It sounds cool. I like it. You know what I'm saying? He's a multiple-time regional champion at 170, man. And listen, BJJ brown belt. That's where it gets interesting in this matchup, right? Let's say Tim Means says, I'm going to pick you up and I'm going to throw you on the ground. Nicolas Dalby has been put on his butt before. He has a takedown defense of 63%. But with that being said, he showed a willingness himself to actually clinch on the offensive, right? So what do you think about that, AJ? It's one thing, apologies, I got some ruffling going on over here, apologies, but it's one thing to sit there and be like, okay, I'm not really good on when I'm being my back pressed up to the fence, right? Just like you'll see a wrestler who is really good in top control, but they suck when their back is on the ground, right? So Dalby is really good when he's pressing his opponents up against the cage, but not very good at all when he gets pressed up. And Daniel Rodriguez did that exactly. He was like, all right, bro, I'm tired of hitting you or not hitting you, and you keep hitting me, and it's getting annoying. I'm just going to press you up against the cage and just hold you there so I can know where you're at, right? What are the odds of that happening in this matchup? You think Tim Means has the juice for 3 full rounds to do that to Nicolas Dalby?
Oh yeah, that right there. That's what I think the game plan is for Tim Means. Anytime you're fighting a dangerous striker, you either get in or get out. You don't play that middle game and risk it. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're looking for your own KO knockout. But that's not Tim Means, man. He's gonna make it dirty. He's gonna make he's the Dirty Bird. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna make that fight very interesting, very gritty. I'm expecting him to put him up against the fence, fight in that dirty little boxing zone that we like to see Tim Means do, and kind of control the match, man. Even with Dalby being a late fight replacement, I don't think it's going to change much just because Tim Means is so experienced. You know, it might be a completely different fighter, but Tim Means has been through so many camps. I mean, he's 31-12-1 with 1 no contest. So horrible math off the top of my head. That's somewhere around, 48, 49 fights. I can't do the exact math, but it's around there, brother. And that's really, he's very experienced. He's been in the UFC since 2012, and he can fight multiple styles and multiple fights, different kind of ways. But I'm really expecting him to make this one a dirty, close, up against the fence, grind out match. What do you think?
I absolutely agree with you, Mal. Here's one thing that I didn't mention, and I'm just pulling this up really quickly because I did want to see who exactly he was supposed to fight. Danny Roberts, that's who Tim Means was supposed to fight. Danny Roberts does not nearly have any type of style close to this karate style, bro. But I will say this, man. Nicolas Dalby has great lateral movement, man. If you notice, he's always moving in a big circle in the cage. Big circle. And Tim Means, sometimes he gets caught following, right? But he does prefer to keep the fight in boxing range. Now, the question is, can Nicolas Dalby, who is very jumpy, right? He has that kind of stance. Can he maintain it for 3 rounds? And then we look at, the history, we watch the film study, and what do we find? He gets a little flat-footed when it gets to that 3rd round. So I'm going to be honest with you, AJ. I do think Tim Means has a very, very likely opportunity to win this matchup. I think that is probably, the odds should be in his favor. However, with that being said, Nicolas Dalby, man, you can't put someone away. You can't grab them when they're moving all, the entire fight. And I think Nicolas Dalby, that's his X factor right there, is that his movement is impeccable. He's getting better cardio by each fight that progresses. And it's kind of the same situation, AJ. Do you get my logic when I say this? It's kind of the same situation as in the last fight, where it's like, well, what are the odds that Jay Herbert can just keep it at distance and not get put on his butt? You know what I mean? It's kind of the same situation with Dalby, except everybody who fights Dalby has the same game plan, just like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I don't know if you've been listening to his interviews recently, but he says, I kind of don't really have to switch on my game plan because everyone tries to do the same thing against me. Put me on my butt. Don't let me fight out at distance. And I think that karate style is so unique. And if you could utilize it very, very strategically and well, man, it's a very, very hard puzzle to solve. So with that being said, do you got anything else on this matchup, AJ?
Yeah, no, man. I'll just go ahead and give you my pick right away, because I'm with you with 100% on how this whole thing is kind of breaking down. I think the way that Tim Means is going to want to look for a win is he's going to use that jab to go for a takedown, get the finish as early as possible. I think if Dalby's going to look for a win, it's going to be in those middle round, the middle round, round 2, to kind of where he's still a little fresh. Tim Means is still trying to figure out his way to get on the inside, and maybe Dalby lands some, crazy spectacular KO, something like that. I don't really see him getting the win by judges or points, or any early late wins for Dalby. So I'm going with the Dirty Bird submission, round 1. Tim Means gonna get it done, brother. Who you got?
All right, well, let me just give this little caveat of information before I give my pick, man. I just talked about takedown defense and all that stuff of Dalby. It's always improving. He is, in his UFC tenure, he is 3-0 when he is not taken down. He is 1-2 in fights where he is taken down. So that takedown is a very big indicator on whether he can get the job done or not. Lastly, all his opponents, they have the most success when they get him to stop moving, aka clinch him up. Say, hey, man, you ain't going nowhere, right? Even with all that being said, man, I love this dude's wide array of kicks, and one thing Tim Means needs to watch out for is not to get lulled to sleep by the kicks, because Nicolas Dalby will bring in that step-in right cross, and he got some pop on it. I'm going Nicolas Dalby. I'm going a decision to win. However, it's gonna be tough as hell to get this win. I will be honest on that one. So, folks, before we move on to the next one, drop a like, subscribe. You know what time it is. You know what we do here. Best MMA podcast in the world. Come on, baby. Listen. This one right here, AJ, Andre Touchy-Feely versus Daniel Pineda. Holy shit, this is a great matchup. This is a great, great matchup. It's a featherweight contest. Andre Touchy-Feely is minus 225 favorite, plus a 190 comeback for Daniel Pineda. The same Daniel Pineda who's been around forever, who has fought in every promotion you could fight for, who has, he is very well regarded and well known as a dude who is a deadly, deadly fighter, even though, let's just say, his level of skill and his level of danger doesn't necessarily sync up with the success that he's had. You know what I mean? He hasn't been the most successful. And oftentimes, the first round is when he's most dangerous. To get past the first round, it starts getting a little weird for our boy Daniel Pineda, a.k.a. The Pit, right? And I will say, Andre Touchy-Feely, man, that's up there, top 10 nicknames, right? I love it. Every time I say it, it rolls off the tongue so well. Come on, man. But this is going to be interesting, AJ, because both of these dudes are former regional champions. You know what I'm saying? Both of these dudes have interesting grappling accolades, I guess I should say. Have you ever heard of this? I knew Joseph Benavidez. I know he teaches. I know that he has people under his tutelage, but to be a Jiu-Jitsu piano key belt under Joseph Benavidez, that's what Andre Touchy-Feely is, right? So I don't know what Jiu-Jitsu is. I don't know what variation of Jiu-Jitsu that is, but it's interesting. I had never really heard of that before. Daniel Pineda, he's a BJJ black belt, and he uses that acumen very, very well, man, because he gets his back on the ground. He's going for an arm bar, going for a heel hook, going for whatever, but we really know him as the kickboxer, man. AJ, let me ask you this. Andre Feely, I think we've seen he's a gamer. He's always bringing the fight. However, sometimes he does get caught staring in the mirror. Sometimes I think he's a little too patient for his own good when he needs to step on the gas. How does he fare in that first round against Daniel Pineda? Do you think that Pineda says, I'm just going to go all out, put a pace on him? How do you see this fight taking place? This one's going to be crazy.
Dude, this one's going to be really crazy. I had a real hard time picking this one, Derick, man. I definitely think if Feely is able to, fight how he wants to, fight from range, very fast, very creative, it's going to be a lot of fun. He got absolutely grilled in his last fight against Bryce Mitchell, but that's how it's going to do. But surprisingly, I think he did a lot better in the wrestling than people were giving him credit for. You know what I'm saying? Bryce Mitchell's an absolute savage on the ground, so you can't really take that away from him. I think he did a lot better, especially there was one, I think it was the second round. He was expecting to get taken down again, and he caught Thug Nasty with a fat knee to the face, man. And it was very impressive. Obviously, Bryce Mitchell still won the fight, so it is what it is. Now, Daniel Pineda, I really like him because he throws heavy kicks, doesn't mind the brawl, but he likes to take this like big breath and reset and then go. And that's kind of what got him in trouble with the Cub Swanson fight, because he was looking good in that first round, but like you said, he gets a little tired. He's gonna have to push it in the first round to really get it done. But after that, he kind of starts to fade, my man. And he does that exactly like I was saying. He'll swing. Okay, time to go again. And that's when Cub Swanson caught him. And I think if Andre Fili can keep it fast, keep it creative, keep the pace going, it's going to end up really, really well for him. I see this playing out actually in kind of multiple ways. I'm hoping for a stand-up battle. I don't really see Daniel Pineda kind of going for any shots unless he's hurt. Same thing with Touchy-Feely. I definitely think he's going to keep it standing, keep the kicks coming. But I think we're in for a slugfest, my man. I'm expecting fireworks from this one. And unless Pineda gets tired, then we'll see some game plans change. But I think from the jump, first round, you can't blink for that first round, man. After that, it's kind of a little more up in the air. What do you think?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, AJ. I want to believe what you believe, because I'm hyping it up too, right? I'm like, this is going to be a great kickboxing matchup, all of that jazz, right? This has all of the makings for one of those contests. However, one thing that I have noticed as of late, man, you look at Andre Fili's fight with Charles Jourdain, and you look at his fight with Sadiq Youssef. And one thing that we know that's very common about those opponents is they're very good strikers, man. They're very, very legit strikers. Now, what do we notice in that fight? Andre Fili's been taking much more of a wrestling-heavy approach, right? It might not be like super off the bat, I'm just going to shoot for the takedown, but it's like I'm gonna use the hands, use the kicks. I'm getting that takedown, because the moment that he has any type of like, oh, I'm getting pieced up a little bit, that's always in his back pocket, which is what's going to make this fight interesting. Now, he took down Charles Jourdain 5 times, and he took down Sadiq Youssef 3 times, man. That goes to show that wrestling is a big part of his strategy moving forward, because he keeps talking about it in his post-fight or his pre-fight presser. He's saying that he hates how inactive that he's been, and it's not up to him. You know what I mean? This is just the UFC brass. Like, he's like, I can have a big win, and they'll still put me out for 6 months. Have a terrible loss like he did against Bryce Mitchell, out for 6 months. Like, he's trying to be active. He's trying to go. So with that being said, man, I think that there's a lot of momentum in Andre Fili's favor. However, one thing that's going to be dangerous, man, he always keeps his hands low, and when the strike comes, he has this perfect knack for just blocking at the perfect time, right? But those hands are so low, and against a Pineda whose hands, legs, knees, shins, everything is dangerous, that's just dangerous, right? And one thing we know about Pineda, this is really the big contrast here. We know that he's flat-footed. We know he's trying to throw everything in every single one of his shots. That's probably why he takes those breaths, man, because every shot is a haymaker. He hasn't won a fight by decision in over 10 years, AJ. I don't know if people know that stat. Over 10 years, he has not won a fight by decision. His last 14 wins are via submission or knockout. Overall, let's see what my numbers got. Overall, the man is 27-14, 4-5 in the UFC, 9 knockouts, 18 submissions, no decision wins, 5 decision losses. Now for Fili, 21-8, 9-7 in the UFC, 9 knockouts, 3 submissions, and 9 decisions, AJ. So ultimately, what this comes down to me, really, is Andre Fili is going to have a reach advantage and a height advantage. He got about 4 inches in reach, about 3 inches in height, man. This is going to be interesting if it does play out as a kickboxing match, but I did want to note this out, right? Andre Fili has fought somebody and has a win over somebody who is very similar to Daniel Pineda, and I want to know if you know this. He has a win against Mowgli, Gabriel Benitez. Did you know that?
Yep.
So that's like a real key indicator for this matchup, is that Fili can handle this type of striker, right? He also has a big win over Artem Lobov, who's a dude who has a lot of experience, right? Those are big notable wins. And he's fought a high level dude. Yeah, I know it was at the beginning of his career, man, but we can't forget he has a loss, but he still has the experience. He fought a Max Holloway already, you know what I mean? So this Fili has done it all, seen it all, right? Daniel Pineda, he got a big win over Herbert Burns, but he has a couple losses to like the Chaz Skellys and the Johnny Bedfords of the world. So with that being said, I think that gives us a real key indication into how this fight could play out. Lastly, before we give our picks, AJ, accuracy is not Andre Fili's strong suit, man. He fires at about a 36% clip, with the striking defense about 52%. Now for Pineda, he lands at basically a 50% clip, man, and he has a 44% defense, so a little worse defense. I don't know, man. It'll be a fun one, but give me your pick and why.
Yeah, I know it's going to be a fun one. I think Andre Fili, he has kind of the fight IQ because he's been thrown in with so many just killers out there. Like you said, a Max Holloway, all of the other ones you name. He's very fast, very creative. And Pineda, if he can get it done early, it's going to be a very exciting fight. But me personally, I think Fili's going to pull it out in the end. We're going to see a long fight, up and down, back and forth. And I think it is going to go up and down, like I said, to the ground a little bit, but I'm really hoping for more of a kickboxing match so we can kind of see what these guys are made of. But Fili, they both actually have ground games in their pocket, but I'm going Fili by decision. I think it's just going to be a kind of one of those throw ups to the judges. But I got Fili. Who you got?
Well, listen, man, I honestly think this is a coin toss. You know what I mean? Even though the odds are skewed as they are, I think Pineda, if he can get, like, if he touches you in that first round, it could be ugly. He has a big first round knockout over Ray Trujillo. I don't know if you know who that is, AJ, but he's a real killer in PFL right now, making a run for that $1 million. That's a very impressive win. I'll just say that. So even though Pineda's had a couple no contests recently, he should be on probably a bigger streak than he is right now, but I guess I got to go in my heart of heart, man. Andre Fili, I think he gets the job done, and I think he's going to catch Pineda in the second or third round when he's tired and probably get him out of there. So I'm going to go a TKO finish. I don't know if it's going to be a flush KO, but I will go TKO on that one, AJ. Now, listen. Raoni Barcelos versus Timur Valiev. Lucky Timur Valiev. I'm so happy, AJ, because when we were kind of doing our prep for these fights and whatnot, this was the featured prelim. And at the last minute, it got bumped up to the main card. And that's where it belongs. Honestly, I think this fight could be a headliner in and of itself. Maybe that's just me sometimes. But sometimes, AJ, like, don't get me wrong, right? To us, this is our job. This is what we got to do. We got to study this stuff, right? But when I kind of put that out there, this could be a main event. I can guarantee there's probably a ridiculous amount of people who are, more casual fans or who are like, who the hell are these guys? Why would I watch that? And it's like, you don't even know, man. So Raoni Barcelos, man, the man of much skill, man, a very dangerous fighter. He opens up as a -220 favorite with a +180 comeback for Timur Valiev, and that is probably the biggest plus number you're going to see next to Valiev's name in quite some time, especially depending on the outcome of this fight. AJ, first thing that I need to note, did you know that Timur Valiev, he's obviously, I don't know if he's training with him currently, but he has historically been Zabit Nurmagomedov's training partner. Did you know that? This dude trained out of DAG fighting for a while. I don't know if he does anymore, but I do know that this dude is over at Jackson Wink MMA fighting out of, good old New Mexico, right? You already got to show the man some love just from that right now. You know he's coming out of a good camp. I don't think we ever talked about it, or maybe we did for a second in a post show, but Clarissa Shields, right? She says, I'm the greatest women boxer. Let me go out to Jackson Winks real quick, get ready, and she wins her MMA debut, man. So listen, Jackson Wink, they got the juice over there still. 16-1 is Raoni Barcelos, 17-2 is Timur Valiev. How often, AJ, in recent memory, do we get a matchup like this where it's two nearly undefeated fighters, two dudes who are at the pinnacle of the game, more or less, right? Because they're not all fighting absolute killers. I think Barcelos has had a much more tougher strength of schedule than Valiev so far. But how often do we see this? Are you really hyped about this? I feel like we're in for a treat in this one.
Oh, yeah, we're in for a treat. And we actually, what's weird about this one to me is we'll see this a little more often where we get two basically up-and-coming guys who are kind of almost undefeated, really on a starward track, but they were put on the prelims. Yeah. So that's why it was blowing my mind, man. I saw that I was going to make it a sleeper because I was like, how can this fight be on the prelims? And then it got switched up. And I was like, all right, this makes a lot more sense. We're going to get these dudes some shine. They're the third to last fight on the card, excuse me. But we see it a lot more. And I think it comes from a little bit more of the heavier classes, the 55s and ups. Since they're 135, I think that's what's stopping them from getting that shine. But really, man, this one has some potential, Derick, man. This is a lot of fun. Raoni Barcelos, he likes to fight loose, long. He's a very bouncy Brazilian, so we know he got that ground game going. Strong kicks and very powerful for 135. And what I like him about him, man, he's very sharp. He has this very sharp striking, very explosive. It's going to be a lot of fun. But like you said, Timur Valiev, I'm not sure how to say it, but either way, he's got great wrestling. Overall, well-rounded. You already said it, Derick. He's fighting out of one of the best camps in the best state in the world. But I gotta give him a little bit of back and forth. I gotta give him credit, but he's a little one-dimensional. We'll see if that changed with all the prep he's getting down at Wink. But he's already, or at least for me, like you said, we do this a lot. We watch these fights. I think he's all a little one-dimensional. He's gonna shoot for that takedown, and we kind of know where it goes. You know what I'm saying? If Barcelos is able to stop that, that's what I'm excited to see. If Barcelos is able, or even Barcelos might get taken down and we see some ground game, some jiu-jitsu versus top heavy pressure wrestling, that'll be interesting too. But I really want to see what Timur does when he's actually kind of put up against a fence, or maybe even, his takedowns have been stuffed and he's not able to fight the fight he wants to fight. Now, that being said, I don't know if that's going to be because, what are the chances that Raoni Barcelos is able to stand up the whole time, keep the fight on the ground, or keep the fight standing, or work something from his back. I think with Timur Valiev, whatever, he's able to do so well because he's so proficient at that one aspect of the fight game, which is wrestling, kind of like how Khabib was, where he's so good at that nothing can really stop him. Valiev is amazing at top pressure control, so it's going to be one of those position over submission, unless we're surprised and Barcelos pulls out a submission from the bottom. What do you think?
Well, listen, man, that was a very concise, well put together assessment of this matchup, man. But we have a couple of things that are missing, man. I will say Timur Valiev, in his last fight against Martin Day, took a very, conservative wrestling approach. But the reason why is because in his fight prior to that against Trevin Jones, he went balls to the wall and got clipped and got put out. Now, did he lose that fight? Absolutely. Is it on his record as a loss? No, it should be, because Trevin Jones popped for marijuana, which is ridiculous, and he should be credited with that win. That was a huge win, but lucky enough for Valiev, man, homeboy got a favor on that one, you know what I mean? So I will say that he has been a little more conservative since that fight. Obviously, it's only been one fight, and this one might turn out a little conservative too. But if there's one thing that we need to note, AJ, is that Raoni Barcelos is absolutely no slouch when it comes to the wrestling department. This dude is a 7-time South American wrestling champion. Timur Valiev, yes, he is a master of sport in pankration and in sambo, and obviously both of these fighters. Here's what I like about this matchup, AJ. Both of these fighters are damn near identical. The main difference I see is Barcelos pressure forward all the time. Timur Valiev could pick you apart going backwards. He can go forward or backwards. It really does not matter. In this fight, I probably expect him to go backwards because, let's be honest, who's stopping the forward pressure of Barcelos? Like, that's going to be a tough task right there. But this is what I got to say about this, AJ. Both of these fighters, right, average about 5.6 significant strikes landed per minute. The main difference is Valiev is much more accurate, about 70% clip. But Barcelos lets his hands go with crazy flurries a little bit more. Both of these fighters, man, they wrestle with their arms and their legs, which I thought was just a signature of the Dagestani wrestling, but clearly not. This dude is just a legit high-level wrestler in Barcelos, and so is Valiev. When it comes down to the takedown defense, and you said you're wondering if he'd be able to stuff the shots, Barcelos got an 85% takedown defense, my man. Like, he don't let himself get put on the ground very often. And in all honesty, the biggest thing that spoke to me is his decision win. It was a unanimous decision win against Said Nurmagomedov. So Nurmagomedov, right, with the name, you already get hyped up. Oh, look at that, Nurmagomedov. Yeah. That's not the big key. The big key is Said Nurmagomedov is one of the Nurmagomedovs that throw majority of spinning shit, kicks, crazy strikes, all of that. He threw like 50 spinning back fists, you know what I mean? Crazy spinning back kicks and whatnot. But he is a dude who can wrestle with the best of them, but he's like, nah, that's boring. I want to knock you out instead, right? Barcelos, I don't think he allowed not one takedown, and I think he even took down Nurmagomedov, if I'm not mistaken. At the end of the day, AJ, these dudes are more or less clones to me. And what's going to be interesting is this going to pan out the way that we expect it to in terms of a crazy kickboxing match, or will it be the wrestling? I really do not know. I don't know, but I will say that Barcelos, I think he has the advantage in the hands, man. That's the big difference in this one. Would you agree with that assessment? Because Barcelos, when he lets those hands go, it's a short night for a lot of his opponents. For Valiev, he does a lot of his work with his kicks. And I don't know if you saw it in the Trevin Jones fight. I believe he threw a how would you say it? So it's like a Showtime kick, except it was like a Showtime elbow. Like, he jumped off the cage and threw a flying elbow down. Like, these dudes are nuts. They throw crazy front kicks, all of that. But do you agree with that assessment that Barcelos probably has the advantage in the hands department?
Yeah, I would agree. And it's just because he's able to weaponize pace, I think, a little more. Like you said, he throws just crazy blitzes, throws a bunch of combos, and I'd give him a little bit more on that end personally too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The last thing that I got to really say, because like I'm telling you folks, these are just a clone matchup. It's like putting Barcelos versus Barcelos or Valiev versus Valiev, and let's see who fights. Like, you'd always hear the crazy thing. Anderson Silva would say he wanted to fight two people. Roy Jones Jr., when he was in his prime, he was like, I want to fight Roy Jones Jr. in a boxing match, and I would love to fight my clone to see how, who would get the best out of that. Anderson Silva versus Anderson Silva in the prime. Anyways, that's unrelated. The last thing that I got to say here is when I have the stat here, Barcelos has actually only been taken down once in his UFC tenure, and that was versus Kurt Holobaugh in 2018. I believe that was his UFC debut. So like I said, man, this is going to be legit. And let's go picks, man. Let's go picks because I don't know. This is breaking my heart just thinking about it, man. This is going to be such a difficult matchup to call. And in all honesty, AJ, once again, Minus 220 plus 180, probably not the right thing. This probably should be a pick 'em again, but give me your pick and why, AJ.
Yeah, man, this is a pick 'em for sure. This is a pick 'em for sure, and I gotta go kind of a little against the grain on this one, Derek. It's gonna be a surprising pick, but I'm going Raoni Barcelos KO round 1. Ooh. I think it's just gonna be a crazy fight where we don't really know what's gonna happen. And in my mind, why I picked this is because it's kind of the opposite of what I'm expecting. I'm really expecting a crazy grind out match, up and down, back and forth, but I think it's going to be something weird we're not seeing because it's the chaos of it. Like you said, it's person A versus person A. They're literally fighting the same fighter. Who knows what's going to happen? So I'm going, like I said, against the grain pick, Raoni Barcelos. Sorry, NM fan. I got it. Fans, excuse me, family. I got to do the, KO round 1 against our boy Valiev. Who you got?
Yeah, I will say, folks, listen, it's rare when you got AJ picking against the New Mexico fighters, you know what I'm saying? So listen, obviously he's seeing something, but I'm going to be honest, AJ, I'm seeing the same thing, but here's the big thing that really made me go over the edge on it. Timur Valiev doesn't often fall into firefights. He's very, very patient, very careful, and picks his shot very, very well. And for that reason, I think the recklessness of Barcelos, where he's just a little more willing to let those hands and those strikes go, is going to look better in the optics of the judges. So if this doesn't go to a finish and it does go to a decision, I think Barcelos probably will do enough to get the edge out. And with that being said, I do think it will go to a decision. So I'm going Raoni Barcelos decision win over Timur Valiev. It sucks someone has to lose in this one, but I don't see it being Barcelos. But with that being said, AJ, move on to the co-main event, man. Tanner Boser versus Ovince St. Preux. This is another matchup, AJ, that nobody saw coming. Tanner Boser himself was like, how the hell am I fighting this guy? First, because Ovince St. Preux isn't a heavyweight, right? He's fought a couple times at heavyweight, but he's basically like, dude, I'm not big enough. I need to stay at light heavyweight. That's where I belong. Tanner Boser has been on a rough stretch as of late. You know what I mean? He's dropped his last 2. However, I do feel it's important to note that he just got a new contract prior to this fight being booked, AJ. But I got one other caveat that's going to completely, if you didn't know this, AJ, this may completely change your outlook on this fight. Tanner Boser, right? Sounds like, oh, I just watched him fight recently. Yeah, Ilir Latifi, that just happened. He lost a split decision. Watching it back, I guess I agree. Boser could have been a little more busy. But with that being said, did you know Tanner Boser? He's a Canadian, right? And if we know anything about the Canadians right now, they have very strict COVID protocols right now. So what did Tanner Boser do? He says, I want a quick turnaround. I'm still in shape. What have you been doing over the last 3 weeks, Mr. Tanner Boser? Quarantining. He hasn't been in his gym. He hasn't been training. The man has been quarantining, but he's like, I'm still in shape, so it's all good. Let's rock. Probably doing push-ups and shadow boxing in the hotel or something, you know. And he says literally the day he got out of quarantine, he flew back to Vegas so that he can get, this fight stuff going. So that changed everything for me because I was like, all right, man, I think Boser gets it done. Ovince St. Preux moving up to heavyweight. We saw how he got manhandled, you know what I'm saying? We even saw how he got manhandled by Jamal Hill, you know what I'm saying, at light heavyweight. So it's like, do we really want to see him? He's not the fastest. He's a little plodding these days. But then I saw that and I was like, God damn it, that threw everything out the window. And I don't know. So give me your take on this, AJ. Now that that information is out there, what do you think about this matchup?
Well, I think that could be a good or a bad thing, Derek. He's either been completely locked down, mentally focused, ready to fight, or, he could just be a little lackluster, a little untrained. And really, I don't think the Ovince St. Preux part going up to heavyweight kind of matters because Tanner Boser's a little undersized heavyweight. I don't exactly remember what he weighed in his last one, probably around 230, 250, somewhere around there. But he always seems to be the smaller guy in the cage. Now, let's see how that happens with OSP. But I'm actually excited, man. The mullet, Tanner Boser, he's back. He throws a lot. He stays very active, throws a lot of feints, and he's surprisingly fast for a big guy. And going against a plotter, a marauder, just like OSP, I think it's going to make for a very interesting match. OSP in his last fight, I think he needs to shake it off. He's kind of had that weird, like you said, we saw him get absolutely manhandled by a dude who's probably half his age. I forget how young Jamal Hill is, but OSP, he's 38. He's getting to that age where everybody's starting to kind of wonder, what's going on here? How long are you going to last? But at the end of the day, OSP, he's an absolute legend. He likes to lull his opponents in, get them a little bored, and then hit them with the blitz. He's super strong. Very little activity, so he's able to maintain his cardio a little bit longer. Whereas Tanner Boser, man, he's in it for the fight. He's in it for the scrap. I really like the mullet, man. Tanner Boser, he's a solid fighter. His ground game needs a little bit of work. So that where I think is the X factor that OSP is going to do. He's going to come in. He's going to try to wrestle him, get that OSP choke, and really try to get it done. I think OSP, in his own mind, he's such an old school fighter that he just needs to get one back. He just needs to get back on that win streak. And the same for Tanner Boser. He's not as experienced in the game. OSP being 25-15, where Tanner Boser's 19-8-1. They're around the same record level. But OSP has been doing it at the high level for so much longer that I think he's going to be able to shake it off a little faster. Sure, Tanner Boser, he's been kicking it in quarantine for the last 3 weeks, but he's really struggled with the last two against Andre Arlovski and Ilir Latifi. He just hasn't been able to fight his kind of fight that he likes, and it's been a little underwhelming from a fan of Tanner Boser's. You know what I'm saying? What do you think, Derick? How's this one playing out?
Well, listen, I think that we had much more high of praises for Tanner Boser a couple months back. You know what I mean? Because he was looking like the next thing in the heavyweight division, and then a couple losses, couple setbacks, and it all started with the Ciryl Gane fight. Once he lost that fight, everything kind of went downhill for him there. And he even said he was all like, "Yeah, I was just dumb enough to take the fight against Gane when like 8 dudes turned it down." You know what I mean? Whatever. But here's what's interesting is I looked up the weight. So Tanner Boser, his last weight was 242 pounds, right? But one thing that was interesting about OSP when he was talking about this matchup is he was all like, okay, so I'm not really worried about Boser. He's one of the bigger heavyweights. And I was like, that's not really true. Like, have you been doing some film study? You're the one fighting him, right? So he's not really a bigger heavyweight. He moves very, very well for a heavyweight, man. And I honestly think that that's going to be his major advantages in this matchup. Is he has speed and footwork. That's a major advantage right there to Boser, right? Ovince St. Preux. He's very flat-footed. He's very willing to just put his back up against the cage and just move in a circle. Tanner Boser isn't the dude who's walking his opponents down. He's very kind of in the middle of the cage, step back, come forward, step back, come forward. But I think that Tanner Boser has the added intangible that we talk about, AJ, is he said it himself. He's like, I need to get the monkey off my back. I need a win, right? It was the last fight on his contract, but obviously he got it renewed, so there's not that. But he says it's still they can cut you. The UFC can cut you after any fight. So with the UFC being able to cut you after any fight, this dude needs to put a big performance together. Not just a win, but he has to have a decisive one against Ovince St. Preux if he wants to put himself back in that kind of upper tier echelon of the heavyweight division. Now, you already pointed out the age differences, AJ. They have crazy age differences, but the thing is, the ground, AJ. You talked about it. He needs to shore up his ground game. Ovince St. Preux is known for the Von Preux choke now, right? You know what I mean? This is something that he can really use as an advantage, but as of late, we haven't seen him try to work the submissions. We haven't seen him try to work the ground game very much, right? His last submission win was against Michael Alexichuk, man, and that was quite some time ago. That was 3-4 fights ago. So with all of that, AJ, man, I'm honestly not too excited for this matchup. I'll be honest with you. You know what I mean? Ovince St. Preux, I don't remember who he was supposed to fight. Do you remember? This is another one. I don't know. You don't know?
No, I don't remember. I do know it was a late one, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I know that Ovince St. Preux, when he fought Ben Rothwell, he dropped Ben Rothwell. So the man has pop in his shots. He can get the job done, man. I just think that his pace isn't going to be enough. I think he's too content being just like I said, low output, man. He averages about 2.5 significant strikes per minute. And the thing is, AJ, is I'm pretty sure he has a negative striking differential. And that means that he gets hit more than he hits his opponents. And we saw against Jamal Hill, man, it was a standing TKO. You know what I mean? Is that telling to you, before we move on real quick, is that more telling to you, a standing TKO versus just a regular, you hit them and they drop and they go to sleep or something like that? What's more ooh to you?
I think the shutting the lights off is more ooh, but what weirded me out about the standing KO is in the whole fight, OSP looked like he didn't care. He didn't look like he wanted to be there. He was just like, all right. Yeah. Cool. He would hit a couple blitzes. So I think that was a little more telling to me that when he was standing KO'd, he might not have been out. He might have just been like, all right, whatever. Cool. Yeah. Keep it running.
I'm with you, man. Listen, those blitzes, those straight punch blitzes of OSP, they're very random, and I think they're very effective for that reason. But I think on the feet is probably how he's going to have to get the job done, AJ, because Ilir Latifi is actually the only fighter that Tanner Boser has fought in the UFC who has taken him down. Nobody else has been able to take Tanner Boser down. So he needs to shore up some stuff, but at the end of the day, it's probably not the end of the world, man. I think that he's having a short memory on this one, and he's saying listen, I just need to get a win. That's all that matters here. So AJ, man, that's the co-main. Minus 115 favorite, Tanner Boser, plus 105 or minus 105 for St. Preux. So this is very, very much a pick 'em, more or less, right? And as we move into this heavyweight contest, AJ, we got a couple of questions. Our boy Syke asked us a question, then I gathered a little something on the internet, man. So shout out to you, homie. And let's pull it up, man. Ciryl Gane, minus 160 favorite with the plus 135 comeback for Alexander Volkov, AJ. And obviously, I've noted before, folks, but if this is your first time tuning into the show, these are opening week odds. So the odds are most likely not going to be the same right now. They will have shifted. But this is how the odds maker saw it out on last Sunday, at the beginning of the week. So the question is, by our boy Syke, do you feel that this is the right match to favor Volkov? Keep the distance / pick them apart? And that's a good question, AJ. That's a really good question because Ciryl Gane has looked almost indestructible at this, you know what I mean? He's taken like no damage. He's never been taken down. He looks great against everybody, even when he has a boring performance like he did against Rosenstruck. And he looks like he's kind of just having fun. Like there's this big picture of him where he's got the mouth guard in and he's just smiling. He's just like, oh yeah, like as he's punching his face in. And in his pre-fight presser, he says, man, one thing he loves about MMA, because he's from France, right? And MMA in France isn't nearly as popular as it is in other regions of the world. It's finally just got legalized recently. He says he loves the contact. He loves the contact nature of the sport of MMA, and it's like, damn, you better hope you love it, because if you don't, why the hell are you into sport? You know what I'm saying? But to hear a man be like, I get pleasure for punching people's faces in, it hits you a little bit differently, AJ. But what do you think about this question? Let's answer it. Is this the right match to favor of Volkov? This dude doesn't have the frame that we thought he did, like the advantages that he has against most fighters. Because Ciryl Gane, he doesn't look it. Dude is 6'5", 80-inch reach. Volkov is 6'7" with an 81-inch reach. So let's play it out, AJ. What do you think?
I mean, this one's hard because this is another one of those where Ciryl Gane is an amazing kickboxer. He'll maintain the distance almost better than Volkov will. Volkov can get lulled into getting close and into boxing range, kind of how we saw with the Derrick Lewis fight, where Derrick Lewis was able just to weather the storm, get on the inside, and crack him one. Now, is it going to favor Volkov maintaining distancing on the outside? I don't think so. I think it's going to play better to Gane if he's going to be able to do that. If Gane's going to be able to stay on the outside, pick him apart from distance, I think that's going to be his route to win. What I'm looking for Volkov is to get on the inside and make it dirty. We've seen a resurgence of Volkov in the last, couple fights where he lost the stingray on his back and he decided to put a samurai, and his whole outlook, his whole game plan has changed. And that's what I really like about him. He's become a lot more mean, a lot bigger too, a lot heavier, and he'll really strike hard, man. But also, to that same point, I think that could play into the favor of Gane, because Gane in his last fight, the only reason it was so boring is because neither fighter was engaging. That's not going to be the case with Volkov. He will walk you down. He is Drago. He will put a hole in your face if you let him, man. He will control the fight if need be. But at the same point, that's going to give Gane some openings to counter-strike. And that's actually what's kind of I like best about his Gane is that he's able to move in and out, be bouncy, let them throw at him, and he'll come around with the counter-strike. I think it was who did he get? Oh, yeah, JDS with the elbows in round 2. And that was a great fight, man. That was a great fight. And the crazy thing about Gane is not only can he get it done on the hands, but he can get it done on the feet. I don't know exactly how many submission wins. Maybe you might be pull that up for us. But I know in his last 5, he got a seriously impressive heel hook against Dontel Mays. As well as right before that, he had Pessoa in a nice arm triangle choke. And for a big guy, Gane moves fast. So to answer the homie Syke, and also shout out Syke, man. I love that those you sending them questions in, man. Keep it coming. And for anyone else, hit us in the comments, bro. We'll answer them for you. But to answer that, I think this is actually a better situation for Gane. If Gane is able to maintain distance and roll like he likes to fight, well, Alexander Volkov is coming in. I think it's going to be a little better for him, for Gane, excuse me. Who do you think? What do you think, Derick?
Well, I like what you're saying, man. The only thing that makes me kind of be like, I'm not sure, is that they're fighting in Vegas. So there's going to be a tiny cage. And Volkov, there's one thing he does well is as soon as the fight starts, recently, this wasn't always this way, but recently he establishes the center of the cage immediately. He says, this is mine. I'm taking the center. But here's the thing, Ciryl Gane, we know he loses that movement, man. He'll bounce around. He'll move in a big circle and just pick you apart, not get hit, all that stuff, right? So I do think that this is a fight where you can favor Volkov because of that tiny cage. And there's not, just like Ngannou versus Miocic, this is not the same matchup, right? But in that fight, what was the thing that was much different than their first fight? It was in a tiny little cage in Vegas, right? And Miocic, he just couldn't move. Everywhere he went, Ngannou was right there. And Volkov, that's just the thing that's deceiving right here. Is Ciryl Gane is not nearly as small as he looks, right? Or how Volkov looks against other fighters. Ciryl Gane is just not that small, dude. He's so big and he moves so unorthodox. But that leads me, AJ. So basically, can you favor Volkov? Absolutely. Keep this distance and pick him apart? No, I don't really see that for Volkov. I say walk forward and smash his face, and that's probably his game plan. But this next question leads straight into that, and I'm glad you kind of pointed that out. I'm going to read this really quickly. This is a Reddit post from a user, The Big Red Hafrican. I mean, that's a pretty interesting name. I like that. All right, so it says, I think the new and improved 280-pound Volkov beats everybody in the division except Ngannou. I think Francis is too fast and powerful early on, and Volkov's biggest flaw is that he simply doesn't move quickly. He can throw kicks fast, but his speed of movement is just too slow to avoid getting clobbered by Ngannou. Now, AJ, this has nothing to do with Ngannou, but I brought this up because I do think there's some valid points there, right? Volkov is slow. And it's to be expected when you're that large of a human. Like, there's no one sitting there being like, oh, look, he needs to get fat. Like, dude, you're just a huge person, right? So it makes sense. And he got real power behind everything that he throws. But him, that being his biggest flaw, can't Ciryl Gane just take advantage of that? Like, make him miss and give him 2-3? You know what I'm saying? Like, I honestly think that that's going to be the biggest issue, is that Ciryl Gane could draw out with his feints. He could draw out the strikes of Volkov, play the chess match, and get the big win there. And you already talked about the submissions, right? Gane has 3 submissions on his belt. 2 of them came in the UFC. And his first submission win against Dante Mays, he was whooping his ass the entire fight, went for the finish in the first round, didn't get it, beat him up in the second round, beat him up in the third round with like 10 seconds left, said, all right, I'm going to grab a heel hook. And that's it. So with that always in that back pocket, AJ, man, that's the part that really worries me about the chances of Volkov winning. Especially because Volkov in his pre-fight presser, he says, yeah, I hope Gane stands up with me. I hope he tries to trade with me. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, obviously you do. You know what I mean? Clearly. But I honestly also think this, AJ. I think that Ciryl Gane's best path to victory, I don't think it's going to the ground. And the reason why is because what did Curtis Blades say when he fought Alexander Volkov? Did he beat him decisively? Yes. I think he took him down like 14 times or something crazy like that. But he says, I couldn't get the finish because it's really hard to grapple against a dude with such an unorthodox long frame like a Volkov, right? It's not as easy as just grappling a regular sized person that you're used to, that you have in your training gyms and whatnot. So with all of those caveats, AJ, all of that stuff, man, give me a couple scenarios how this fight plays out, man. Do you think... and honestly, I don't see it happening, AJ, but I didn't see it happening with the Rosenstruck fight either. Can this fight go all 5 rounds?
I really don't think so. I really don't think so with how Volkov fights. Volkov's going to put full pressure. And what I liked about what you were saying is you're right. I do think the Reddit poster, the Red African, he's and I probably said that wrong, but he's right. He's right. You know, the Ngannou is a little stronger, a little faster, but I think Volkov has that underrated ability to where he could take a crack. He handled Overeem with no problem. Overeem caught Volkov solid a couple times, and Volkov was able to weather the storm, put him out in round 2. Now, I think this matchup, like we were saying before, leads a little bit more in favor to Gane, especially because Volkov's going to walk forward, throw a couple feints. He might get caught on a counter hook. You never know. Like you said, hit him with that 2-3, but. Like you said, or like I said, excuse me, Volkov has a chin, man. He can weather the storm, and if he's able to do that, I do think it's going to go later into the rounds. But I don't think with these 2 big boys we're going to see a decision, my man. I think that's going to be one of the big long shots right there. We're going to see a decision. I just don't see it playing out with how much Volkov puts pressure on the fight and how good Gane is in the transition, in the counter shots and in the movement. He has he fights like he's a middleweight. It's the craziest thing to see some dude 260 plus running around, just like literally bouncing around like it's 2 small dudes like us in the cage, Derick. So this one's an interesting one to me. I could also see, I don't see this one playing out too much, but I could see Gane shooting in, getting hurt, shooting in for a takedown, and then kind of working some advantages there. Maybe looking for a heel hook, because the only real way, like you were saying with Curtis Blades, it's very awkward to get him going. But when you got those long limbs, it makes it easier if you're going to go for an arm bar or a leg bar, heel hook, anything like that, ankle pick, any of those weird long limb movements that we're going to see, those complex movements. I think that could play in the favor of Gane, but I really don't see it going that way. I definitely see Alexander Volkov taking the center of the ring, really being the bully of the fight, while Gane is just dancing around on his bike, picking his shots, popping, all from the outside, letting Volkov come in, counter shots. And Volkov, I really see him working that front kick, using it as a jab, maintaining, keeping Gane on his back foot, and really looking to do some damage in there, man. That's really what I'm hoping to see, because, like I said, since Volkov has got that samurai tatted on his back, he's a whole new fighter and a whole new savage, and I'm really, really excited for this one for that. What do you think, Derick? How do you see this one playing out?
Dude, I mean, like you gave a couple of scenarios that's exactly how I see it playing out. But there's one you didn't mention, and I can see it. I don't know why. I just keeps playing in my head. I don't know why I can see Ciryl Gane trying to do his normal thing, because the thing about Gane, yeah, he has great head work and he uses head movement instead of the traditional guard, right? So he uses head, he'll get popped with some stuff, and he'll try to do that same Andre Fili type thing where at the perfect time, just bring it up real quick and then keep moving. And while that works for most people, man, I can see Volkov and his length, right? Just because he's got pretty equal, comparable length to Gane, just bat at the end of the shots, man, and just Gane just being like, oh God, what's about to happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't normally get touched like this, right? I don't know why I could see that happening so very well, even though his movement is so good. But Volkov, you're right, he's so dangerous. He's so dangerous. I will say this, man. Ciryl Gane trains out of the same camp that basically Ngannou birthed champion Ngannou, which is MMA Factory out there in Paris, France. Right now, did Ngannou have the extreme couture stuff as well? Yes, of course, right? But listen, MMA Factory clearly, even though it's an MMA gym, I don't know if you know this, they're more known for their kickboxing, right? They have a lot of kickboxers over there at MMA Factory. And Ciryl Gane, he is a former kickboxer himself, 7-0, 5 knockouts, right? Former Muay Thai heavyweight champion. And I checked his weight going in, right? Because Volkov, the other thing, I'm going to pull it up really fast again, AJ. The first thing that they note is, I like the new and improved 280-pound Volkov, right? The big boy, right? You know, a dude who has to cut down, and Volkov does cut to 265, so he is huge, right? Ciryl Gane, he in his last fight, he came in at about like 240 pounds, so that's going to be a big difference in it right there. You might even not want to grapple with the dude who's that big, right? But lastly, AJ, you remember, and I think this is partly why Volkov maybe hasn't had the rub that he deserves. You remember when he fought Greg Hardy? And everyone was like, oh, yeah, he's just going to smash through Greg Hardy. And he fought to a decision win. And it's just like, and he even just said, I was listening to UFC Unfiltered, and Volkov was all like, yeah, I have to give respect to Greg Hardy. He has the soul of a fighter. And this dude, like, and he even said he had good cardio. And I was like, what? Greg Hardy, good cardio? Okay, all right. Maybe something that got lost in translation, because he did have a translator there with him. But I just have to point this statistic out before we get out of here, AJ. Greg Hardy landed the third most significant strikes with 46 of all the Volkov's UFC opponents. He has trouble against tough, fast, athletic fighters, and that's basically the definition of a Ciryl Gane, man. So if Greg Hardy could put 46 on you, imagine what a Ciryl Gane could put on you. You know what I'm saying? Especially because his output is a little bit higher, about like 4.8. It's basically the same, but. Right cross, body kicks, or money, straight punches are the key to victory for Alexander Volkov. But with all that being said, AJ, give me your pick and why.
Man, so me personally, I got Volkov getting this one done. KO, round 4. I think we're going to see something a little different. I think we're going to see something where Volkov might even be put on the back foot, kind of gets a KO win, like you were saying, or like the Reddit post was saying, excuse me. He's coming in 280. He's a big dude. I was even noting that in his last couple fights. He's really, since the Curtis Blades fight, made a change. And I don't know if that's where the tattoo came in, but that's definitely where the extra weight came in. And he looks thick. He's a lot stronger on his shots, and I definitely think that adds to the fact of how he was able to eat Overeem's punches like no problem. We saw him get hurt with the Derrick Lewis fight, but I don't think that's going to be the case, man. I think that 40 extra pounds that he's packing on that has Gane at that disadvantage, I think that's going to play in big, and Alexander Volkov is going to be the bully that we expect him to see, and I think he's going to maintain that distance. I'm really saying watch out for that front kick down the pipe from Volkov. We're going to see something crazy. KO round 4. Who you got?
Well, that is quite the prediction right there. Even though I got to put all the respect, they clearly forget. Alexander Volkov is a former Bellator heavyweight champion, former M1 global heavyweight champion. Like, this dude is very, very experienced, and that's probably the key thing that comes in to be a little bit different in this one, right? 33-8 is Volkov. 8-0 for Ciryl Gane. That's a big, big jump in experience. But even with all that stuff you outlined, man, I'm going with the momentum in this one. I'm going with the specimen, the freak, the unorthodox dude who, and I say those in like a positive manner. You know, that's what makes him good, is because he doesn't move like anybody in his division. You know, literally, I agree with you. He's one of the most like gorgeous performances to watch, or best performers, right? It's smooth as butter. You know what I'm saying? The in and out movement, all of that. I'm going to Ciryl Gane. And listen, man. I'm making this up on the spot. I'm gonna go with what you did. TKO4 for Ciryl Gane. I said get Volkov, get him tired, get him sweaty, and then pounce on the ground and pound or something. Because there's one thing that we got to know about Ciryl Gane. Is like I talked about, he's a Muay Thai champion, man. That clinch is dangerous. His elbows in the ground and pound and in the clinch are ridiculous. And Alexander Volkov, he has been knocked out twice. I mean, take that for what it's worth, folks. You know, this is going to be a fucking banger, bro. I love these fights where we have to go so back and forth because it's like, I don't know who's going to win this fight. I hope Ciryl Gane, but then again, I hope Volkov, because Volkov versus Ngannou, bro, come on. That's a matchup right there, man. That's one I would like to see that probably more than Miocic Ngannou 3, to be honest with you, man. But, you know, listen. With all of that being said, AJ, that's the picks, man. That's all that good stuff, folks. So we got one last piece of business before we get out of here, AJ.
And now, the all factors considered fight of the night picks are in.
And we got a lot to choose from in this one, my man. We got a lot of really good ones, but I would like you to go first. Who is your fight of the night for UFC Fight Night 191?
You're right, man. You're right. There's this one's hard to pick for me because there's actually a couple fights on the prelims that might get some sleepers. You named one with your that might be the fight of the night. Excuse me. You named one with your sleeper, but personally, I'm going Andre Fili versus Daniel Pineda. I think it's going to be crazy. It might be a layup, but I don't know, man. Those guys are going to swing for the fences. I'm very excited for that one. Who you got and why, Derek?
That one was mine. I'm not going to lie to you. You know, I thought that had all the writing on the wall for it, but this is another one where two dudes who desperately need a victory. And I think that, listen, man, this could have fight of the night over it, given how the work rate of these fighters and what they're going to bring to the table. I'm going featherweight matchup in the prelims, folks. So you watch this for, you know, free 99, you know what I'm saying? Charles Rosa versus the Guitar Hero Justin James, man. We got a dude in James who is a heavy hitter, who really is a brawler. He's a scrapper. He's not the most technical dude in the world, but watch out for that left hook because he can put you away. And a Charles Rosa who is a black belt, very fancy striker, you know what I'm saying? All of that. I think these dudes need a win so bad. I think that one of these people are on the verge of being cut without a win. So you're fighting for your job here. And when you do that, you generally have a really good performance. So that's the fight of the night, folks. So listen, AJ, man. We know what we have coming up. We got UFC 264, right? 263, 265, something. We got Conor McGregor versus Dustin, 264. There we go. Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, the trilogy, right? And folks, let me do a little bit of housekeeping before we get out of here. The next time that you will be hearing from me, clearly me and AJ, you know, AJ's got things locked down where he's at, but the next time you will be hearing from me, I will be reporting live out of the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. So we taking a little bit of a break to get the technology set back up. Let me get my equipment right and all of that good stuff. But, you know, let's say everything pans out the right way, we'll be reporting live for UFC 264. If not, we'll do something. We'll figure it out. But listen, man, we got some changes coming on the horizon, man, and we appreciate y'all rocking with us. You know, we appreciate y'all liking, subscribing, commenting, really, because that's really the big thing, AJ. I pour through some of these comments, right? And you get your positives, your negatives and all that. But what we focus on is the people saying, great breakdown. This channel needs more views. How do people not know about this? And I ask myself the same question, folks. So go tell a friend, go do all of that good stuff. Drop a like. You see the button, go subscribe somewhere over there. Nope, not there, but somewhere, you know, you get it right there. Bow, subscribe, all that good stuff, folks. That is it for us, man. And tune in on Monday for our post show because it's going to be crazy. And whoever wins this, man, we're going to have a lot to talk about. So AJ, appreciate you as always, brother. But that's it for us. Until next time, folks. Peace.